Welcome to Scale Models. I'm Jason, your host, and I do models and electronics. This is going to be a purely academic video on basic electronics with the logic series, and this is going to be about the JK flip-flop. Now, your JK flip-flop has a basic block diagram of you have this, and then you have an input here, and you have a clock input. Then you have two outputs, your Q output and your Q inverted output, Q naught, and then you have your K and your J, and then you have your clock input. And what a JK flip-flop looks like is you have an SR latch, which is your NOR gates that come back and feed into each other. And then you have outputs that go to some AND gates. And these are 3-input AND gates. And then these two lines of the AND gate are your clock signal. And then this is your K input, and this is your J input, and then these AND gates go back to the outputs of the SR latch. And then off of here you have your Q output, and then off of here you have your Q naught output. So with the clock signal, it will toggle back and forth between lighting between Q and Q naught, and then you can also set and reset it with the K and J based on the clock signal. Now, I drew up these circuits on iCircuit, and I will pull those up now, and I will go through them on the screen. So I'm going to put the drawing pad up. It's just a basic overview of how they work. Let's go to this view here. And now this is the JK flip-flop. As you can see here, I have my K input and my J input with my clock input going into these AND gates, feeding into this SR latch section here. And then I have my Q and my Q naught. Now, if I pulse the clock, it will change the input. So if I click that, and well, that's because if I close both of these and then I click the input, it's going to give me an error, of course. Okay, well, that makes sense. So, it's hard to make it light up LEDs. There we go. So now I got it that way, and if I undo this one and I do this one, I can swap it between set and reset. This is resetted. And then if I come down here and I do that, I set the latch, and then the clock has to be on, otherwise it will hold the value. So if J and K are working together, then it won't do anything. So now if I come in here and I get a square wave generator, and I come here and I turn it sideways about 3 wide, and I come in here and I delete this switch, and I bring my square wave, I put it in here, and I pulse that, and then I close one of these. It is going to, basically that's my clock signal, and then I can, reset it, set it, and then it'll stay latched no matter how long I do that. So I can go back and forth, and I can do those things like that. So that is the JK flip-flop, but we also have the master-slave version of the JK flip-flop, which is a little bit better of a design. We'll save it, and we're going to go to the master slave. I didn't draw it all out. I have the actual blocks. These are the actual block diagrams. And as you can see, with none of the inputs closed, the clock is pulsing between the two, so it's toggling back and forth But if I close this one, it's going to give me an error, but it is theoretically sets the input, because this is my J input. And then if I close this one, it's going to turn on my reset input based on the clock signal. And if both of them are closed, it's not going to work at all. Now, this is going to give me errors on the software because it's not designed to run LEDs with the unit. But as you can see here, it at one clock pulse, it activates the first flip-flop, and then on the negative side of that, it activates this. So in one clock cycle, it activates both of these units. As you can see, when the clock is up, this one is activated, and when the clock is down, this one is activated. So that is basically how the JK flip-flop master slave works. It's useful in logic. You can get chips with these on it. You can get chips with single JK flip-flops. You can get chips with JK master slave flip-flops, all built in there. And with the logic series, we'll come up with more information. I just wanted to get this basic overview of how the JK master slave flip-flop works. And so when we talk about that in the logic series overview, with the actual chips, you guys have a understanding of how they actually work. It's hard to show exactly how they work not building it in circuit, but I did not have the chips to actually build it all out with logic. I might do a follow-up video where I build the gates with switches and LEDs and stuff. So, but this is this at this point. I'm going to build it on a circuit board, and I'm going to come back after this and show you how it works on a circuit board. Thank you. Okay, so I have the JK flip-flop set up here. We have our J and our K, and we have our Q and our Q naught. So I have it hooked to my clock circuit. That is this blinking light here. And if I hold down this button with the clock cycle, it lights this light. If I hold down this button on the next clock cycle, it lights this light. I can keep pressing, nothing happens. And then, go back and forth on the clock cycle as long as I hit a clock cycle. But the interesting part about a JK flip-flop is if you hold down both inputs, it's supposed to flip. So it does it, and then it doesn't do that. And this is inherently why a JK flip-flop by itself is not the best option in a logic circuit. But if you do use the master-slave function of a JK flip-flop, which I'm not going to be able to build in this video, you get rid of the randomness of it not jumping back and forth like it would go back and forth evenly. So that is your JK flip-flop I used in LS, or a 74 LS11 and a 74 LS02. I will pop up the data sheets here. There is the data sheet for the 11, or the pinout for the 11. I keep these all on here, and I'll show you the pinout for the 2. And there's the pinout for the 2. I've gone over these chips in my logic series, so check them out. And you'll learn more about how these chips work and how you can build your own logic. I've also gone over how I built this whole clock mechanism with the 4-bit counter and some 555 timers where I can step the clock, or I can step the clock, and it's just basic logic, guys. You should learn it. Everything works on basic logic. Most of the time now you're using D-type flip-flops, but this older, different types of flip-flops are good to know, and information that's good to have. So thank you for watching. Here are the links to social media. Here is the link to my Patreon page. I do post some cool information there with no need to sign up. You guys should check it out. If you do want to sign up, I'd be eternally grateful. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic day.